Okay, so here we go with the next step in our wine kit. We had the primary first, then we got it in this secondary fermenter to kind of let it finish fermentation. It's fermented down to less than 0.998 if you got your hydrometer and you're testing it. That's what it should ferment down to. So now we want to stop fermentation. So and I'm just following this right straight out of the wine kit. These are all just cookbook style recipes, or really instructions. And yes, that is a DeWalt, and we'll be using that in a minute. So I'm adding packets. One is the potassium metabisulfite and some sorbate. I've diluted that in some cool water. Not diluted, I've dissolved it in some cool water. I'm just going to add that in. Just to make sure I got it all. And now I'm going to mix that up. So what that does is that essentially stops the fermentation, so the yeast aren't going to do any more fermenting if they could. If there was any residual sugars or anything in there to continue to ferment. So now what I need to do is stir this up. And the stirring does one of two things. One, it resuspends the lees, or it's also, the lees is the kind of the fancy name for the sediment that's at the bottom. So I want to resuspend that as per the instructions to the pack. And also I want to drive off some of the CO2 that's in here. Some of the CO2 that's released during fermentation is dissolved in the wine itself. So if you were to drink this now, it would be kind of sparkling or fizzy. And we don't really want that for this type of wine, so we want to drive that off. There's a couple ways you can do it. Some people do it through vacuum, so apply a vacuum to this carboy and pull the CO2 out. You can certainly do it by hand if you have a long spoon and just stir it. That takes a very long time, though. The other way to do it is to buy something that looks like this. So this will go down into your carboy, and then these will open up when you stir, and then by stirring that way you can drive off some of the CO2. So anytime I can use power tools, I certainly will. You have to be a little careful here, though, because if there's too much CO2 in here, you can fizz this over just as like you were opening a Pepsi or something that you shook up. So you want to be really careful here at first. And you can see this fizzing. It looks like I'm going to be okay. My battery's about to die. So I need to do this for a while. Not terribly long, but definitely for a little bit longer until a lot of this bubbling stops. So I'll stop out here and kind of splice this together so you don't have to watch all of this, and also so I can get another battery. But this is just driving off the CO2 because we don't want sparkling Cabernet, we just want a regular Cabernet. Anyway, be back. So here we're back. I stirred for about 2 minutes, which is what the instructions suggest. And I've got most of the CO2 driven off. The next thing we're supposed to do is add this chitin, which is one of the clarifiers that are used. There are a bunch of different clarifiers that you can use, especially if you're making your own wine. You can use gelatin, you can use bentonite, you can use egg white even. I've even seen milk used. Proteins in milk help to pull out some of the clouding agents in wine. But this is just some stuff called chitin, and it helps clarify. So what I need to do is just open the corner of this and add it, and I'll just add it directly down the And this particular chitin, there's a number of places that you could potentially get chitin in. This, however, is a derivative from shellfish, and it even says so on the pack. So maybe if you know someone close that has some kind of shellfish allergy, this could be a potential problem. So you might want to find another way to clarify your wine. I don't know that to be true, so I might have to test it out with somebody that's allergic to shellfish and see what happens. But as soon as you add that, you can kind of see it going to work a little bit in the carboy. But again, I need to stir that up. Easily distributed. And that's pretty much that. I'll stir this up for a little bit longer. Really, all I want to do from here is once this settles out, I'm going to top this up probably with water to a couple inches from the top. You want as little interaction with oxygen as you can get with your wine, because you get oxidation, and also if you're interested in turning wine into vinegar, so one of the things you need there is oxygen. So we don't want that. We want as little oxygen as possible. So I'll top this up. At this point, I'll probably top up with water. When I siphon this off of the lees that I'll collect in the bottom, when I siphon this off from there on out, I'll probably top up with the wine that I already have, so as not to dilute this wine too much. But that's pretty much it for this step. Add a couple of chemicals. All we did was add a couple of chemicals to stop fermentation, and we added some chitin to help clarify the wine, a thinning agent. And we'll let this sit for about 8 days. Then we will rack this off or siphon this off into another carboy, top it up, let that sit for probably another 2 weeks, where it'll clarify a little more, and then we should be pretty close to bottling at that point. So it's pretty, like I've said in the other videos, it's pretty simple to do this. It just takes time to do, and you can have some pretty good wines.